7 months after a woman was fatally stabbed and a man shot inside of a Reston home, an au pair has been charged in connection with one of those deaths.
Love triangle with the family au pair.
We have recovered all weapons, and we've identified all persons involved in this case.
A quiet suburban neighborhood in Herndon, Virginia. A seemingly happy family of 3 living an unremarkable life. A Brazilian au pair trusted to care for the couple's young daughter. What appeared to be an idyllic arrangement was shattered in February 2023 when a double homicide turned this ordinary household into the epicenter of a disturbing and still evolving mystery. At the heart of this shocking case is Juliana Peres Magalhaes, a 23-year-old Brazilian national hired as the Banfield family's au pair. What began as a seemingly straightforward case of self-defense quickly spiraled into something far more complex, an investigation revealing hidden relationships, a web of deception, and an unsolved murder. Magalhaes, once a trusted caregiver, now stands accused of second-degree murder in the death of 38-year-old Joseph Ryan. And while no one has been charged with the murder of Christine Banfield, questions linger about her death, leading many to wonder whether the full story has yet to emerge. The events that unfolded on February 24, 2023 would shock the quiet Virginia community and spark a months-long investigation that still has not reached its conclusion. It began with a series of frantic 911 calls.
Caller saying he shot someone. There's a 34-year-old female that got stabbed by someone, and then he shot him.
Magalhaes, the family's au pair, had initially left the Banfield residence with the couple's young daughter, intending to take her to the National Zoo. However, she soon realized she had forgotten their packed lunches. Returning to the house to retrieve them, she noticed something strange: an unfamiliar car parked in the driveway. Alarmed, Magalhaes immediately called Brendan Banfield, Christine's husband and a former criminal investigative agent for the IRS. Brendan had already left for work, but the presence of the unknown vehicle troubled them both. The two agreed to meet back at the house to investigate. When they arrived and cautiously entered the home together, they walked into a scene far more horrifying than either could have imagined. According to Magalhaes' initial statement to the police, they found an unknown man, later identified as Joseph Ryan, holding Christine at knife point in the master bedroom. The sight was terrifying. Ryan, fully clothed, appeared to have forced himself upon Christine, who was naked and visibly in distress. In a moment of panic and horror, both Magalhaes and Brandon claimed to have fired at Ryan, striking him multiple times. Ryan died at the scene, but the nightmare was far from over. Christine, who had suffered severe stab wounds to her neck, was rushed to the hospital where she later died from her injuries. What appeared at first to be a case of an intruder violently attacking a woman, only to be stopped by her husband and au pair, soon unraveled into something much darker and more twisted. The investigation into the events of that February morning would uncover a web of lies, hidden relationships, and secrets that had festered within the Banfield home for some time. As detectives pieced together the details of the double homicide, they were confronted with more questions than answers. Why had Joseph Ryan, a man who lived miles away in Springfield, shown up at the Banfield home that morning? Why was Christine found naked while Ryan was fully clothed? And why did both Magalhaes and Brendan feel the need to shoot him multiple times? From the beginning, there were elements of the case that didn't add up. Fairfax County Police Chief Kevin Davis addressed the media following the murders, stating that there was no signs of forced entry into the home. Everyone inside the home was known to each other, Davis remarked, hinting that Ryan's presence may not have been as random as it first seemed. As the investigation unfolded, the police began to suspect that the 4 adults involved, Christine, Brendan, Magalhaes, and Ryan, were entangled in a much more complicated situation than originally thought. According to prosecutors, the story of what happened that day is far different from the version initially presented to the police. Court documents would later reveal that Magalhaes and Brendan had been having an affair unbeknownst to Christine. This clandestine relationship, simmering beneath the surface, had set the stage for the tragic events that unfolded. Magalhaes, described in court as Brendan's live-in lover, had been more than just an au pair for the Banfield family. She had become deeply enmeshed in the household dynamics, and her influence over Brendan had grown. Prosecutors also alleged that just weeks before the murders, Brendan and Magalhaes had visited a shooting range together, suggesting a level of preparation or familiarity with firearms that would come into play during the fateful encounter with Ryan. More disturbingly, investigators uncovered evidence linking the Banfield home to a sexual fetish website.
Search of the family's computer revealed an online profile in Christine's name on a fetish sex website, according to prosecutors, as well as communication on the site with Ryan. But the way in which the messages were written didn't seem as though they'd come from Christine, and police say they believe it was someone else communicating with Ryan.
Joseph Ryan, it turned out, also had a profile on the same website. Prosecutors theorize that it was through this platform that Ryan came into contact with the Banfields, though it is still unclear exactly why he was at the house that day. Brendan and Magalhaes later claimed that Christine had invited Ryan into the home, implying that she may have been involved in a consensual arrangement. However, the lack of evidence showing Christine's active participation on the fetish site raises doubts about this version of events. Ryan, a former acquaintance or stranger, depending on which accounts are believed, was fatally shot under circumstances that remain clouded in suspicion and uncertainty. One of the most troubling aspects of the case is the conflicting versions of what transpired inside the house that day. Brendan initially told the 911 dispatcher that he had shot Ryan after the man stabbed his wife. But according to prosecutors, it was Magalhaes who delivered the fatal shot, a bullet fired from a second gun that Brendan allegedly instructed her to retrieve from elsewhere in the house. This detail, combined with the discovery of Magalhaes' lingerie and a framed photo of her and Brendan in the master bedroom, cast doubt on the true nature of the relationship between all parties involved. Magalhaes, for her part, maintains that she acted out of fear and in defense of her employers. In court, her attorney, Ryan Campbell, argued that she had simply followed Brendan's instructions, believing that Ryan still posed a threat. According to Campbell, Brendan had shot Ryan first, using his service weapon, but it was Magalhaes who fired the shot that killed him, believing she was acting to protect the family. Despite her claims of self-defense, Magalhaes was arrested in October 2023 and charged with second-degree murder.
Family's au pair is now charged with shooting and killing a man in a Reston home.
Fairfax County police are still investigating who killed a woman inside that home.
Brendan, however, has not been charged with any crime. The Fairfax County Police Department has indicated that the investigation is still ongoing and more arrests may follow, but as of now, Magalhaes remains the sole individual facing charges.
Feeling that there was a lot more to what met the eye that morning. And certainly it has taken a road 570 days later where we are finally in a position to announce.
The case took another strange turn after Magalhaes' arrest. Following Christine's death, Magalhaes moved into the Banfield's master bedroom, placing a framed photo of herself and Brendan on the nightstand beside the bed. To some, this seemed like a brazen move, as though Magalhaes had assumed Christine's place in the household after her death. This detail would later be used by prosecutors to argue that Magalhaes had been intimately involved with Brendan and that the murders were the culmination of a complex and twisted love triangle. The trial, scheduled for November, is expected to shed more light on the events leading up to the murders and the relationships between the four adults involved. But even as the legal process moves forward, the case continues to captivate and horrify the public. Magalhaes' family has maintained her innocence from the start. Her mother, Marina Peres Souza, has been vocal in her support.
News 4 spoke to Juliana's mother, Marina Peres Souza, over WhatsApp, and a local reporter in Brazil translated. Marina says she's missing her daughter so much and she just wants her to be freed and come home to Brazil.
In an email sent to her mother in June, Magalhaes expressed her frustration and despair. "I am tired of this place, this situation," she wrote. "I am unhappy and nothing makes me happy. I just want to go home and be with you." Her words paint a picture of a young woman overwhelmed by the events that have unfolded, trapped in a legal nightmare that could determine the rest of her life. Brendan, meanwhile, has invoked his Fifth Amendment rights and refused to answer questions about his involvement in the case. He is no longer employed by the IRS, and his role in the double homicide remains under scrutiny. Despite his claims of self-defense, prosecutors and investigators continue to question his actions and motivations, particularly given his affair with Magalhaes and the disturbing evidence found in the Banfield home. As the trial looms, the public is left to speculate about what truly happened in that suburban Virginia home. Was it a case of a deadly love triangle spiraling out of control, or is there a more sinister explanation for Christine Banfield's death? And what drove Joseph Ryan to the Banfield residence that day? Was he a willing participant in a dangerous game or a victim caught in a web of deception? One thing is certain: this is no ordinary case. It is a tale of betrayal, secrets, and violence, a story that, despite the forthcoming trial, may never be fully understood.